So I was thinking about how and why you should paracord wrap your water bottle. And before you say, oh Tim, that's just another rope gimmick or trick, why should I wrap this multi-purpose rope around my bottle? But okay, well, hear me out for a second. Let me show you how and I'll tell you why. So this method of quick release wrap might be familiar to you paracord veterans. And to be honest, I've never been able to confirm the name of it, but it's a really simple and useful method and technique. But as I'm sure you will agree that having some paracord or any sort of rope with you in general is a great tool to have. And here's how we're going to do it. You can do this method over just about any bottle, but the amount of cord you use and the size of your bottle will determine the surface area of the wrap. This one starts off with a bite, which are these two cords formed by folding the cord and being laid over the side of the bottle. And the technique very simply involves making subsequent bites around the first one, and we'll call this one the core. Now you might also notice I'm not using an excessive amount of cord, nor is the wrap meant to cover the entire bottle, but I will get to as why that is. However, when making this wrap a rubber band really does help initially with keeping one of the strands on the bottle. And all I'm doing is wrapping a bite around the core using the running end, that is the end we're working with, and the end where you started is called the standing end. It goes around the back of the bottle and then it does the same on the other side to form the wrap. So if this is how you do it, then why? Well, my personal philosophy around this is that perhaps you're going on a short or medium length hike and you're packing light. I'm sure there will be situations where you don't necessarily, want to carry a backpack or sling bag with you and you just want to bring a water bottle. Well, with this wrap, you're going to be able to carry that bit of cordage with you without having to stuff it in a bag or pocket. And I mean, yeah, of course you could wear a paracord bracelet that quick releases as well, but you might forget to wear one, or you don't want to wear something that could, potentially get caught on anything. And also, I think the only practical paracord bracelets in those situations are specific to certain quick release weaves like the Blaze Bar. But anyhow, more on that another time. But as I was saying, with a bit of paracord wrapped around your bottle, it'll always be there. And it being wrapped around something essential, like your source of hydration, you're less likely to forget it. Oh, and as for why I'm only wrapping about 15 feet of cord or so, and not wrapping the entire bottle, well, it's pretty simple as well. The purpose is to have a length of usable cord, and stress on the term usable. Now, I think 15 feet is already quite long, but any longer and you'll be dealing with too much cord, if you will. And for it to be of practical use, you'd most likely have to cut it, and you may or may not have a cutting tool on you. I tend to have a knife in my pocket, but that's a personal preference. In fact, I think perhaps even 8 to 10 feet is enough for a practical rope tying task. Also, if you're not aware, please check out First Class Amateur on YouTube as well. He is an amazing resource for practical knot tying and knows far more than I do. In fact, I'll link one of his videos down below about how much cord you should carry. So that being said, if you want to wrap 40 feet of cord around your bottle because you want to, feel free to do that, of course. This is all just a guide to give you ideas to play around with. As for this wrap though, once you've wrapped enough around, there's a bit of length left, that final bite is going to be placed through the core bite, and then the opposite end is cinched down to form the release pin, and this will secure the wrap on the bottle. Also notice I've tied some double overhand knots to make this easier, and releasing is as simple as pulling out the top cord that we've used as the release pin, then you pull on the core bite to undo all the wraps. This is the most satisfying part. And you can snip off any excess if you want it to look cleaner, of course, or just tuck it into the wrap somewhere. Now, as to what you'd use this cord for, well, just about anything really. There are plenty of emergency situations where you could use paracord, like affixing a splint, replacing a broken bootlace, and even as an emergency tourniquet. I know, hot take. And I do know that you're not supposed to use thin rope as a tourniquet as it can damage blood vessels. But if you really absolutely had to because you had nothing else, I'm sure you'd risk the damage as opposed to the alternative, which would be bleeding out. And of course, there are plenty of other non-emergency practical uses as well, as the uses of paracord and rope in general are limitless. So perhaps you can find a reason to wrap some paracord around your water bottle.